Good evening. If I could have everybody's attention, we're going to get started with the program, but many of you have just been served, so I want you to continue enjoying your meal tonight. And I want to thank you for being here tonight at our our inaugural Dothan Business Hall of Fame. And I'm just very, very elated and pleased that each and every one of you could be in attendance at this historic and prestigious event in the life of our community. I have some people I want to thank and acknowledge before we get started tonight. And I thought we've got a number of our elected officials here tonight, and I want to have them stand up. We can acknowledge them and thank them for their public service. I know Mayor Schmitz, many of our commissioners are here. I'm not going to acknowledge you all, but please stand up, all of our elected officials, and let's give them a round of applause and thank them for your public service. Thank you for what you mean to our community and all of your hard work. And then another person I would like to acknowledge that's certainly been with us about a month and a half now, but I want to point him out tonight because he's going to be very important to the future of Dothan, and that's Tim Wilder, our new superintendent of the Dothan City Schools. Stand up, Tim, and let's acknowledge you. We've got a lot of hard work to do in that area, and we thank you for joining our community, and we're looking forward to great things ahead, Tim. Thank you very much. And I couldn't start this evening without thanking a number of people that made this event happen. And we can't do this without the staff of the Chamber of Commerce, and Janice and LaRonda and her entire team, Malia, Matt Parker, and everybody at the Chamber. This is a program that will be under the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce. So a lot of hard work's been put into this event. Peppy Foods, Vic Pemberton and Jenny Price and their entire staff, we want to thank them for the meal tonight. And Peppy Foods is a new company that's headquartered here in our community, so I thought it was very appropriate to have them cater this meal, and it was an excellent meal. And thank you to everybody. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. As I said, good evening. I am very pleased to see everyone here tonight at this historic and very special event in the life of our community. I am Jeff Coleman, Chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, and I am the Chair of the Dothan Area Business Hall of Fame. Sometimes I think that's my full-time job now, but my day job is CEO of the Coleman World Group, a family-owned moving and storage company headquartered in the Dothan area. And I'm proud to call Dothan home and to have our headquarters here. It is amazing to think that Dothan was founded in 1885, and the Chamber of Commerce was founded in 1919, and yet we have not formally recognized the business accomplishments of the great individuals in our community. Therefore, it is a great honor and my distinct privilege tonight to be involved in officially and formally recognizing the significant achievements of individuals that have developed, nurtured, and grown our business community here in the Dothan area and Houston County. If you were to look in the history book for Dothan and Houston County area, you would be sure to find a vast manuscript filled with the names of individuals who have made a significant impact in the development of this area. The list of names would incorporate those who have made such an impact by promoting the free enterprise system and the entrepreneurship to those who have spent a lifetime demonstrating civic leadership, philanthropy, charity, and humanitarianism toward their fellow citizens. Recognizing the importance of these individuals, the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce and the Dothan Area Young Professionals, which I'm proud to have a part of this and be jointly linked with this great program, are proudly announcing the establishment of the Dothan Business Hall of Fame, which began yet just a few months ago, in April of this year. The Hall of Fame's mission is to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of our area's most outstanding business leaders, and most importantly, to perpetuate and inspire values of entrepreneur spirit, personal integrity, and community leadership in all generations. The mission will be achieved by honoring the past and present business leaders and by inspiring leaders of the future. Publicly recognizing extraordinary business leaders and establishing, and this is important, establishing a record of their achievement and their significant contributions reminds us of the constant need for renewal, change, and the opportunity for success. The laureates each year will be models for our students and for people just beginning their careers in our community. We'll have a documented record of these significant achievements in our community. The Dothan Business Hall of Fame will be located in the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce, and it will be prominently displayed in the chamber, whereby these honorees can be seen by our chamber members, prospective members, most importantly, industrial prospects that see the heart and soul of our community and the general public at large. I thought tonight can be summed up in a poem by an anonymous author that my youngest daughter gave me late this spring when she graduated from the 6th grade, and I just loved the poem and the way she delivered it, and I thought it was very appropriate to repeat that here tonight because I thought it just really summed up this event for me, and I'll read it. It says, "It only takes one. One song can spark a moment. One flower can make the dream. One tree can start a forest. One bird can herald the spring. One smile begins a friendship. One hand clasp lifts a soul. One star can guide a ship at sea. One word can frame the goal. One vote can change a nation, and we all know that. One sunbeam lights a room. One candle wipes out darkness. One laugh can conquer gloom. One step must start each journey. One word must start each prayer. One hope will raise our spirits. One touch can show you care. One voice can speak with wisdom. One heart can know what's true. One life can make a difference. You see, it's up to you, each and every one of you in this room. There's no doubt in my mind tonight that our Hall of Fame laureates that we are respectfully honoring tonight have all made significant contributions to the success of our great community, and I am so thankful they took that step and have made those contributions. I thank God for them. I give him the praise and glory for this evening. I thank you, and God bless. Now, I would like to introduce Jansen Tidmore, our chairman of the Dothan Area Young Professionals, which we are cooperatively putting on this program tonight for the Dothan Business Hall of Fame. Jansen Tidmore.
Thank you, Jeff. And for those of you that have worked with Jeff, you know what a great privilege and honor and how much fun it is to work with you, and I appreciate you through this process. Good evening. I am Jansen Tidmore, chairman of the Dothan Area Young Professionals. When Mr. Coleman and the Chamber approached us with the idea of the Dothan Business Hall of Fame, there was a great sense of excitement among our board of directors. As the area's young professionals and rising leaders, we knew that this recognition program was the perfect way to honor those men and women from the community who've laid that foundation for the Dothan we all know and love. As you look through the names listed in our inaugural class, you'll see the men and women that are the cornerstones of this community. They provide great examples for us young professionals about what it means to succeed not only in your profession, but by the contributions they give back to the community. It was also a great history lesson and a reminder for us young professionals that it took hard work and dedication to the community to create many of the luxuries and amenities around Dothan that far too often we take for granted. Once again, we are honored to be a part of this Hall of Fame and are excited to celebrate with you all here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jansen, and certainly I failed to thank many of the Dothan Area Young Professionals. They're here tonight, many in his group that worked very hard tonight that actually helped put on this event as well. So let's thank the Dothan Area Young Professionals as well. And I'm very excited about our future and what that program means to our community. Not only Leadership Dothan, Youth Leadership Dothan, but what we can do now with the Dothan Area Young Professionals and bringing these young people back to our community to invest in Dothan and to grow Dothan to a greater heights. And now it's my great privilege to introduce our keynote speaker tonight. And our keynote speaker is Dr. Jack Hawkins, and certainly he's no stranger to us in this community. I mean, he does great work with Troy University and what it means to our community with Troy University Dothan, and many of them are in attendance here tonight. It is my distinct pleasure and great honor to introduce our speaker, Dr. Jack Hawkins, Chancellor of the Troy University System. Go Trojans. Let's go. Dr. Hawkins is a native of Mobile, Alabama, and he was named the Chancellor of the Troy University System on September 1st, 1989. He received his bachelor's and master's degree from the University of Montevallo and his doctorate from the University of Alabama. Upon completion of his bachelor's degree, he was commissioned as an officer in the United States Marine Corps and served as a platoon leader during the Vietnam War. For his combat duty, he received the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, and a citation from the Korean Marine Corps. He has overseen an era of excellent change and growth at Troy University, and he led the initiative to establish one great university, where the enrollment of Troy University has more than doubled under his leadership and is approximately, get this folks, 30,000 students today. It's amazing, amazing accomplishment. He has received numerous professional awards and recognitions throughout his career, which include the Distinguished Alumnus of the Year, University of Montevallo in 1985, the Top College President Award in 2003 by the All-American Football Foundation, and he was inducted himself into the Hall of Fame of Murphy High School in Mobile, Alabama in 2005. In 2007, he was recognized as the Alabama Citizen of the Year by the Alabama Broadcasters Association, and finally in 2001, he was recognized with the Chief Executive Leadership Award by the Council for Advancement and Support of Higher Education. 3 buildings have been named after Dr. Hawkins in his honor: the Jack and Janice Hawkins Chapel at the Alabama Institute for the Deaf and Blind, the Hawkins Adams Long Hall of Honor, and a beautiful building on the Troy campus, the Jack Hawkins Junior Hall, which serves fittingly as the College of Education for Troy University. Dr. Hawkins has been profiled in 2 books published in 2004, Above and Beyond, Former Marines That Conquer the Civilian Ward, very important, and the Entrepreneurial College President, amazing. He serves on numerous boards and is a member of many organizations, which include the Daniel Foundation, the Business Council of Alabama, the Better Business Bureau of Central Alabama, Troy Bank and Trust, and the Troy Rotary Club, Service Above Self, and the 4-Way Test. He is chairman of the Governor's Committee on Employment of the Disabled and the Air University Board of Visitors at Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. He also serves, very fittingly, as the president of the Sun Belt Conference, and Troy University's had amazing success athletically. And I was telling him at dinner, they've got a great project going on with the Trojan Arena, and I've seen what's being built there, and I guarantee you that'll be one of the best venues to watch a basketball game in the Southeast. Dr. Hawkins' family includes his beautiful wife, Janice, who is with us this evening. Thank you, Janice. And his daughters, Katie and Kelly. Katie is married to Captain Dan Beal, the United States Air Force, stationed at Barksdale Air Force Base in Shreveport, Louisiana. And the couple has a son, Noah, and a daughter, Elliot. Kelly is an Assistant Attorney General of Alabama. Please join me in giving Dr. Hawkins, a great American and a dynamic leader, a very warm Dothan welcome.
Thank you so much, Jeff, and to you and Jansen, thank you for a major achievement. What a wonderful night this is. Janice and I are honored to be here to participate in honoring some extraordinary people. I have to say it's great to see Peppy Foods doing so well. Donnie and I said Donnie played basketball at Troy, and he spent about 2/3 of his time on the floor. That's how hard he played. And he was one of the best leaders and best basketball players that we've had at Troy. And Vic, thank you for your support, and thank you to the entire family. Jeff, I must say to you, thank you. On May the 6th, we had an extraordinary experience during graduation when we presented the first doctorates in the history of Troy University after 125 years of service, and we awarded those doctorates to 9 doctorates in nursing practice. And I don't think that would have been possible had it not been for Jeff Coleman and the leadership that he exerted within the Alabama Commission on Higher Ed. Jeff, I thank you for that. That move alone will make a huge difference in the quality of health care as the years come and go. I want to commend the Chamber. I want to commend the Dothan Area Young Professionals for this very, very important step. It's great to see some old friends. When Janice and I went to Troy in 1989, we had the pleasure working with Wallace, Malone, and Ashla for several years. And not only was Wallace the president pro tem of our board, but he was also the chairman of our foundation board, and it was a delight. And if there's anybody in this world that can balance a budget, it's Wallace Malone. And it's a great honor to see you tonight, Wallace, and Davis and Susan. It's a real pleasure. And Ashla, I also would be remiss if I didn't say, continuing that tradition of trustee service is Charles Nayland. And Charles just stepped down as the chairman of our foundation director, having served for quite a number of years. And Charles, it's a pleasure to see you. Thank you for your support, and our colleagues who are here this evening. It was President Calvin Coolidge who once said that no person was ever honored for what he received. Honor has been the just reward for what he gave. Indeed, that is the essence of tonight. I think the contributions of this inaugural class, and Jeff shared with me all the background information, and as I read that information, I was just struck by the impact that these folks have made, ranging from medicine to finance, accounting, broadcasting, transportation, development, and public service. And as I thought about the contributions, and I thought Jeff captured it well in his comments, I was taken to that movie that we enjoy every Christmas, starring Jimmy Stewart. You might remember that movie. It's the title of it, It's a Wonderful Life. And in the movie, Jimmy Stewart plays the role of George Bailey, an ordinary fellow who questioned the very value of his presence. And it was through the blessings of his guardian angel that he had an opportunity to step back and see what life would have been in his community without him. And I have to ask that same question. You take the honorees this evening out of this community, and what difference it would be. And it was in 1896, the year that our senior inductee was born. He was the late Mr. Wallace Davis Malone Sr. At that time, the population of Dothan was just under 1,800. Only 0.5% of the people had attended college. And Dothan, frankly, stood in the shadow of some major metropolitan areas in southeast Alabama, such as Eufaula, Ozark, and Troy. All of those places were larger at that time, and it was 7 years later when Houston County was formed. Today, Dothan stands as the 7th largest city in the state of Alabama. It's twice the size of any other city in the Wiregrass. 23% of the residents, the adult residents, hold the baccalaureate degree, and that's compared to 19% statewide. We like to think that Troy had a little to do with that, and we're proud of that service. But Dothan is really a remarkable, remarkable place. But the leadership of those that we honor was crucial in carrying Dothan from that village crossroads to the great and dynamic city that it is today. And our honorees, no doubt, were faced by many challenges, ranging from 2 world wars to Korea to Vietnam and the current engagements that we find ourselves in, depression, economic recessions. The challenges have been many. As I thought about those challenges, though, I was reminded that it's from challenges that opportunities arise. Janice and I, just in 2004, were part of a delegation of university presidents and chancellors invited to go to South Africa. And while we were in Cape Town, we took a small boat through some shark-infested waters over to Robbins Island. And it was on Robbins Island that Nelson Mandela had been imprisoned for 27 years. And we went into the prison and actually went into the cell where Nelson Mandela spent all those years. And as we did so, we talked about the challenge of maintaining one's sense of purpose and indeed one's sanity under those conditions. Years later, when Nelson Mandela was reflecting on his life, he said, had it not been for those years in prison under those challenging times, he probably would have never developed the inner strength necessary to lead his nation out of apartheid. So we grow during the difficult times. We generally don't grow during the good times. And those difficult times have continued. All of us watched in amazement over the last couple of weeks as our Congress and President debated this debt crisis. I was rather amazed when Congressman Paul Ryan made the comment one afternoon. He said, this month, the month of August 2011, the federal government will spend will take in $173 billion. And I thought, my, that's a lot of money. Until he said, in the same month, we will spend $308 billion. I thought about that, and I dare say that Wallace Malone or Charles Nayland would have never allowed us to run our budget at Troy in a similar fashion. It was emphasized that we were borrowing our way into the future. And Congressman Ryan at one point said he was reminded that the federal government was spending on a spending spree like a drunken sailor. I was glad he didn't say Marine. Indeed, it's true. And now we have a debt of $14.5 trillion. And now we're beginning to hear all these calls for leadership, people to step forward and help solve this problem. Well, I think we could solve this problem if we just sent this delegation of honorees to Washington. I think in short order, we would have a solution crafted that would get us out of this mess that we find ourselves in. Leadership. And as you look at the qualifications and the contributions and the achievements of those people who will be honored this evening, the common denominator is leadership. Leadership. It took me back to a commencement speaker that we had in Troy in the year 2000, former U.S. Senator and former Governor of Georgia, Zell Miller. And Governor Miller was a wonderful, wonderful guest. And he came and he talked about leadership, and he used as his text a little book that he had written, and the title was Core Values. He said all he ever learned about leadership, he learned in the United States Marine Corps as an enlisted man, and his corps was spelled C-O-R-P-S. I had to agree with most of what, if not all of what Zell Miller had to say, and I wanted to share some of those thoughts with you this evening as I use that simple four-letter word, lead, as a reference. Lead, L-E-A-D. The L could stand for lead from the front. And never ask anyone to do what you're not willing to do. And I think that's a characteristic that's common to every inductee that we will celebrate this evening. Be clear in your expectations and inspect what you expect. And often I advise our students to not take themselves too seriously, because the older you get, the more you realize that you're just passing through in this world. And in the end, it's not about a financial portfolio that's important. It's about a portfolio of lives touched. That's what's important. And I also say this about that L. There's a passage in the book of Matthew that says, I came to serve and not to be served. That's great leadership. That's servant leadership, and that's the best form of leadership. And when you look at these people who will be celebrated, the common element is servant leadership. I came to serve and not to be served. They know that leadership is about service and is not about a bigger tent or a closer parking place to the building. The E, and we can take some comfort in this because still research proves that integrity is still the most valued of all leadership traits, but that E could be ethics. Ethics. And it's not really what we say in life. I learned that the hard way from two daughters. It really didn't matter what I said, it was what I did. It's the walk and not the talk. St. Francis of Assisi said it well when he said, preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. It's not what we say, it's what we do. A good friend of ours who we had an opportunity to meet 30 years ago at the Alabama Institute for Deaf and Blind, he was on a plane with a student who was both deaf and blind, and he was kind enough to help this student get from point A to point B in the airport, and he stayed in touch with this student. Unfortunately, we lost that student due to a premature death, and he came to the memorial service, and it started a friendship that has carried to this day. Wonderful man who founded Chick-fil-A. You may have either met or heard of this wonderful man named Truett Cathy. He has an honorary doctorate from Troy, Jeff, just proudly on the wall. He's been to Troy many times, and he's just a humble, wonderful servant leader. Well, in the wake of Enron and Health South and these other corporate debacles, Mr. Cathy, and he told me this just a few months ago when I went into his office, and he gave me a copy of his new book, and he told me this story. He said, I got invited by this congressional committee that was to talk about business ethics. And when I got there, the committee chairman gave me a great introduction. Well, if you know Mr. Cathy, you know that he's embarrassed by great introductions, and he's a very humble man. And he said, after this great introduction, the committee chairman said, now Mr. Cathy will tell us about business ethics. And he said, I just sat there. And it was uncomfortable for the committee chairman. He said, Mr. Cathy, are you going to tell us about business ethics? And Mr. Cathy said, no, sir. He said, I don't know a thing about business ethics. Well, you can just imagine how perplexed the committee chairman was. He said, you don't? And then Mr. Cathy said, no, sir. He said, but if it's personal ethics, I can give you my opinion, because I don't really make a distinction between personal ethics and business ethics. He said, what's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong. That's a great testimony. That's a great and powerful testimony. That could be the same testimony that Miss Agnes Simpson offered when she at Wolf Radio, let air the music, the beautiful music of the first black gospel group over her radio station during the Civil Rights Movement. It was the right thing to do in spite of the challenging times that existed during that period. Attitude. You often hear, and I know our girls heard this so many times, they probably got tired of hearing this, altitude. Altitude is determined by attitude. Attitude determines altitude, and if you ask them today what attitude determines, they would say altitude, and it's true. It's true, and I never miss an opportunity to tell our students the importance of attitude. In fact, year in and year out, research proves that 90% of the people who lose their job in this country every year really don't lose their job because they can't do their job. They lose their job because of a bad attitude. That being true, and it is, just the reverse of that's true for professional growth and advancement. I think it was probably that kind of can-do attitude that has made Mr. McDove so successful at AAA Cooper, who grew this regional trucking firm into a 15-state operation. If you think you can, you will. And if you think you can't, you never will. And that D, that final letter in lead, direction, vision. It's written in the book of Proverbs that without vision, the people perish. And it was Henry David Thoreau who made the comment, it really doesn't matter what you're looking at, it's what you see that counts. And that ability to see things that aren't there separates the leaders from the followers. I suspect that when he created that 12-bed hospital in downtown Dothan, that the late Dr. Paul Flowers would have told you this is not all there is. There is a whole lot more coming. And today we have a 235-bed facility that serves a 3-state region in a state-of-the-art manner. Those servant leaders who have given themselves to public service, great people like James Grant, Mayor Alfred Saliba, and the late Richmond McClintock, all served as servant leaders in this community. And we gather here to recognize those accomplishments. But vision among all of those is a common thread. Vision is a powerful thing. This country is great because of the type of people that we honor tonight. And I'm carried back to 1831 as we try to remind ourselves how delicate this balance of democracy is to a French philosopher in that year who was intrigued by this American experiment called democracy, and he couldn't understand why it would work in this country when it hadn't worked anywhere else. And so to find out for himself, to find that secret ingredient, Alexis de Tocqueville came to America, and he went into the large cities, he went into the towns, into the hamlets, the villages, went into the backwoods, and then he went into the farmlands. And at the end of his journey, he went into America's churches. And at the end of that journey, he concluded that America is great because America is good. And when America ceases to be good, it will cease to be great. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to honor what's great about America, and that is its people. Leaders are few. It's appropriate that we celebrate those who have achieved so much, who have made this community what it is today. May God bless them, and may He continue to bless this great community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hawkins, for sharing that wonderful message with us and for giving us your time this evening. And now we move to the reason why we are all gathered here this evening, to honor 7 outstanding business leaders from our community. Our first laureate is smart, friendly, and successful. She is the founder and president of Wolf Radio, Dothan's only locally and family-owned and operated radio station, Ms. Agnes D. Simpson.
Some people are extra special, and there is no one as special as Agnes Dowling Simpson. She is the owner of Wolf Radio. She and her husband, R.A. Dowling, founded Wolf in 1947. Miss Agnes has never backed away from her beliefs. During the civil rights era, she aired a black gospel show on Sunday, a broadcast opposed by many, but let's just say Miss Agnes will always stick to her beliefs, and the program still airs today. Following the death of her husband, Miss Agnes carried on the family business, saying she had 4 mouths to feed. She broke the barrier into, at that time, a traditionally male-dominant world. She filed for the first FM radio station in Dothan, was the first woman elected to the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce, the first woman to join the Kiwanis Club, and the first selected as Alabama Broadcaster of the Year. Miss Agnes is also a recipient of the Advertising Foundation's coveted Pioneer Award. She even served in the Navy. More than a broadcaster, more than a businesswoman, Agnes Simpson is in a league of her own.
For 19 years, it's been my privilege to have the office next to Miss Agnes. I always have to get to work early to get there before she does, but I think that's mainly because she has to go to the post office and pick up all the checks. Over the years, she has shared her wisdom with me. When I was worried about something that may happen, she would say, "Hal, don't borrow trouble." And when I thought something was taking too long, she would say, "Hal, the mills of the gods grind slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine." She has been an inspiration to us all. I'm proud to be associated with Miss Agnes, and I try to make her proud of me every day.
Please join me in congratulating Miss Agnes Simpson.
That's great, Agnes.
going to be a lot longer time.
Congratulations, Miss Agnes.
I thank you
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much, so much.
Congratulations.
I can't see you.
That's all right. You have anything else you want to say? Or?
I just am grateful to have been able to have been in this community and continue in this community, and I hope I'll be here a lot longer, and I love it.
Amen. Thank you, ma'am. That's good. Round of applause. Give her another standing ovation. Thank you.
Congratulations again. Now, our next laureate is a lifelong resident of Dothan and grew up around his father's trucking business. His company, AAA Cooper Transportation, is the 50th largest transportation company in the United States. G. Mac Dove.
Mac Dove grew up around his father's trucking company in Dothan, and after receiving a degree in transportation from the University of Tennessee, Mac became active in the business himself. AAA Motor Lines, the company his father bought in 1954, purchased Cooper Transfer of Bruton, Alabama in 1969. Mac Dove became the president of Cooper and his brother Earl, president of AAA. In 1973, the two sons merged their companies and bought out their father. They called the new firm AAA Cooper. The company expanded its service beyond Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. The big trucks started rolling to Oklahoma, Kentucky, Texas, Virginia, and beyond. Earl Dove retired in 1989, but Mac just kept expanding the company and treating his employees far beyond what most expect from their bosses. In many cases, he paid for their education. Mac Dove's resume reads mighty big. The Distinguished Alumni Award from the University of Tennessee in 1982, a Paul Harris Fellow presented by Rotary International, Chairman of the Alabama Trucking Association, a committee member of the American Trucking Association, and a member of that organization's executive committee. Mac Dove. He's rolled down the highway with dignity, character, and a love of his employees.
One of my favorite stories about Dad happened probably about 15 years ago. We had a leadership failure in one of our facilities, and he and I went to the facility to try and resurrect that situation. And the local manager there had lost the trust of his people, which is a huge event in any company. And so our effort there was to regain their trust and to make a bad situation much better. And when we got there, we found that the facility was not to the standards, both from a leadership standpoint, but even not from a physical standpoint either. The place was not clean and just not up to our standards. So we had an initial meeting with our people, most of which were drivers, as you would imagine, and we had all of the typical symptoms from a facility that had those issues. And one of the things that was so telling is, we were sitting down visiting with them and asking what the issues were, and we committed to them that we were going to help them together resolve this. And so they went out about their day as they normally would, and we began to start to clean up the facility, Dad included, and with his coat and tie on, and he was in his 60s at this time. He was in the nose of a trailer on a hot day with a broom, and when they got back about 6:30 that night, Dad was covered in dirt, and as were the rest of us, but it really showed his humility in a sense that he'll do anything that he's asking anyone else to do, and the impact of that on our drivers and really laid the foundation of earning their trust again. And it later became and still is today one of our great facilities with good leadership, and the people that work there still very regularly comment on that. So I witnessed that myself, and it was a great lesson in humility.
And please join me in congratulating Mr. Mac Dove.
Wow. To have my name mentioned in the same breath with the others in this class is truly an honor. And I appreciate it very much, and I thank you very much, and I accept this honor on behalf of the AAA Cooper people, and thank you very much. I was born and raised in Dothan, lived here most all of my life, and I'll focus my comments tonight on a few of the organizations and people in Dothan that have brought this moment upon us. First of all is the Dothan City School System. Let me say that I was educated in the Dothan City School System, and it has served me well. It began at age 6 at the Southside Grammar School, where Miss Alice Elliott was my second grade teacher and the principal, and she prepared us for the next step, which was Young Junior High School and Minnie T. Hurd. Miss Minnie T. Hurd was quite a lady, quite an educator, wonderful human being, and had assembled a great group of teachers there. I recall two particular teachers at Young Junior that meant so much to me and served me well. The 8th grade math teacher, Ms. Jernigan, and the 9th grade algebra teacher, Mrs. Jones. It prepared us well for the next step. Dothan High School, Raymond Christian was the principal there. Miss Flo Fraley crammed English grammar into our heads to the point that actually, when I took the freshman entrance exam, college entrance exam, Mrs. Jernigan and Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Fraley had prepared me so well that I managed to exempt both freshman English and math. And that was quite a hit, because I was a BC student at the very best. So thanks to the Dothan City School System. Thanks also to the Dothan churches. I was baptized into the Baptist Church, First Baptist Church here in Dothan, when I was about 12 years old. My Sunday school teacher was Woodfin Parkman, who was a businessman and owned Supreme Ice Cream. And I remember distinctly one Sunday in the Sunday school class where he taught the lesson on a good name, and he said, "A good name is rather to be chosen than gold and silver, and loving favor rather than gold and silver. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and a good name and loving favor rather than gold and silver." And he said it 2 or 3 times, and he was serious. And I thought to myself, now here's a man that's the symbol of success, and he owns an ice cream company, and he's telling me a good name's better than that. So it made quite an impression. And then later, as an adult, in another church, I had the good fortune of having Mr. Fred Garner and Richmond McClintock, Sr., to help clear me up on what the responsibilities were for a layman, a member of the church, and understand what we were supposed to do. So thanks to the Dothan church community. Thanks also to the Dothan business community. Paul Phelps was chairman of the Chamber of Commerce in 1965, and he appointed me to an unfilled spot on the board, and I've been around the chamber, have been a part of it ever since then, serving as chairman in 1978. I remember one particular period. Dothan's always been a good place to do business, but I remember one particular period when Jimmy Grant was mayor, and we were so successful in landing businesses, recruiting industry. I think we got 20 some odd in about a 5-year period. The business was great. We were hot as a firecracker. At the time, our sales were soaring. Our outfit had transitioned from building houses to building subdivisions. Dr. Paul was either adding on to a hospital or building a new one. Miss Agnes had added FM to her AM and was keeping us informed and entertained. Richmond was keeping score and giving advice. And most all of us were being financed by Mr. Malone's bank. So Here's to the Dothan business community as well. And to family. Mother and Dad grew up in rural Mississippi and got married in February 1929, just on the front end of the Great Depression. He was 21, she was 19. They traveled on our way to California looking for work before coming back to Dothan, or not back to Dothan, before landing in Dothan in 1932, 6-month-old son of my brother Earl, who was born at Los Angeles. And a few years later I came along, and then my sister, and they built a life here. They built a life in Dothan, Alabama. And in 1954, he bought the business that is now AAA Cookbook. When I returned from college in the Army in 1959 to go to work with the company, I sensed that we didn't have a policy manual and that we needed one. So I undertook to write one. And in doing my research for that, visiting other companies to find out what I might put in our policy manual, what others had, I discovered that many had a policy that prohibited nepotism, hiring kinfolk. Well, Dad was my boss, and I had a good job making $75 a week, so I wasn't about to go there. We changed that, and it has worked out well for us because we've got many instances at AAA Cooper of husband, wife, father, son, brother, sister, husband, ex-wife. We've got some instances of, we have one instance, for example, our current shop foreman is the third generation. His grandfather was our shop foreman in Dothan in the 60s. So thanks to the AAA Cooper family for its participation in this thing. And of course my immediate family, my son, daughter, their husbands and wives, my grandchildren that bring me so much joy, and particularly my wife Nancy, who has been patient. I appreciate her patience, her ear, and her words of encouragement on an as-needed basis. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dothan.
In 1950, our next honoree purchased the old Bloomberg home on West Main Street and converted it into a small 12-bed hospital that became known as Flowers Hospital. Today, that hospital has 235 beds and provides health care to patients throughout the tri-states area. Dr. Paul R. Flowers.
Dr. Paul Rutledge Flowers was born in 1915 in Houston County, the son of John Jefferson and Isla McDavid Flowers. His interest in medicine sparked at the early age of 3 when he suffered from tonsillitis. As a teenager, Paul Flowers worked in his family's bank, but his interest was in health care. Prior to founding Flowers Hospital, Dr. Paul graduated Dothan High School in 1933 and later graduated from Emory University's medical school. Dr. Flowers, with the support of his wife Grace, began practicing medicine in 1943. He was at the time the youngest of 19 doctors in Dothan. He began Flowers Hospital with 12 beds and grew it to, in 1979, Dr. Paul needed more room. He then built a new and more modern Flowers Hospital on the site where it sits today, and he had a lot more than 12 beds then. He retired in 1985 and the hospital was sold in 1992. Dr. Paul Rutledge Flowers, a medical pioneer and a hospital that still bears his name.
most people think of my father as being Flowers Hospital. What they don't know is the part that he played in creating the Southeast Alabama Medical Center. In 1946, the Hill-Burton Act was passed, which provided low-cost loans and grants to create public hospitals. In the early 50s, my father encouraged the county commissioners to create a committee to explore creating a public hospital for Dothan. That committee worked for a year or two, began fighting among themselves, could not come to a decision. At that point, my father talked to my brother Richmond, who was a state senator at the time. Richmond passed legislation which dissolved the original committee and created a new committee, and Richmond was the chairman of that committee. Under Richmond's leadership, they came to a decision. They built the Southeast Alabama Hospital, which is now the Southeast Alabama Medical Center. And in doing that, my father did something no good businessman would ever do. He created his largest competitor. And in doing that, he brought quality medical care to Dothan and the Southeast Alabama area. And that was something that he was very proud of doing as a high point of his life.
Accepting the honor this evening for his father is Paul Flowers, Jr.
I want to thank the Dothan Business Hall of Fame, the way they've honored my father. I do this on behalf of him and his family. My father was a very humble man and would have been very surprised to find himself included among the recipients of this honor, all of whom he knew and respected greatly. He was involved in many business activities throughout his life. He was a pioneer in bringing television to Dothan. After squinting at a black and white TV full of snow with a 120-foot antenna at his house, which at that time the closest TV station was Atlanta, Georgia. After doing that, he realized that this was going to be a device that was going to change our lives, and he became an original investor and was on the board of directors of WTVY for a number of years. You probably don't remember, WTVY was originally Channel 9. They, at some point in the history, they swapped channels with Columbus, Georgia. Columbus became Channel 9 and WTVY became Channel 4, which it still is today. My father was involved in a number of oil and gas explorations during his life, most of which ended up being dry holes. But you know, businessmen learn from their failures. He and Fernie Johnston, Dr. Fernie Johnston, built and operated for many years Olympia Spa, Motel, Golf Course, Country Club Complex south of Dothan, which is now Dothan National. Golf was his passion, and he was very proud of the golf course that he was able to provide for the Dothan community. But of course, the largest and most successful business venture he had was Flowers Hospital and its affiliated healthcare units. If my father were here today, he would tell you that he was not a particularly brilliant businessman. His success was because he surrounded himself with extraordinary people. He gave those people the tools and the training that they needed to be successful. Those people carried him from one success to the next on their shoulders, and he loved the people who worked for him, and his attention to them created a deep loyalty. He was a practicing physician and treated patients almost a daily basis until he retired at age 65. He also worked for many, many years as the consulting physician to the Wiregrass Rehabilitation Center. He did this to help them identify and suggest treatment for people who were disabled but wanted to return to work, and with this treatment could work again. He believed in hard work, and he wanted to help anyone who wanted a job and wanted to work. He recruited highly trained physicians to the Dothan community, and these superb physicians attracted other outstanding physicians. The medical community in Dothan is the best this side of Birmingham. The average citizen does not appreciate the quality of medical care that we have in Dothan, but having been on the inside of this medical care system, I can attest to you the quality of the physicians and the facilities that we have in Dothan. And my father was very proud to be a part of creating that high-quality medical system that you enjoy today. Again, on behalf of my father and his family, I want to thank you and the Hall for the way that you have honored his memory. I only hope that wherever he is in the afterlife, that he is able to understand the way that you have remembered his accomplishments. Thank you.
We now have a gentleman who, during his years as Dothan's mayor from 1973 to 1981, there was a period of industrial expansion, new schools were built, and recreation services were expanded. Since 1973, he has owned and operated the full-service real estate business, James Grant Realty. Mr. James W. Grant III.
James Grant has been many things to Dothan. He was mayor from 1973 until 1981. During that time, his proudest accomplishments, industry expansion that included Michelin and Sony, new school construction, including Northview High, and the construction of Westgate Park, Waterworld, and housing for the elderly. James Grant was in the drafting and construction business for years, a leader in the design and development of townhomes and garden homes. And James Grant today remains very active in the community. He is chairman of the Building Task Force for the Alabama Association of Realtors, and he owns James Grant Realty. He was one of 4 people named Outstanding Young Man of Alabama in 1968. He was Dothan Realtor of the Year in 1992 and 2007, and was selected Alabama Realtor of the Year in 2007. Not only is he active in business, but he's also helping give downtown a facelift with his role in the Downtown Redevelopment Authority. And as they say, behind every good man is a good woman, like Rose Grant. Jimmy Grant, a name that will never fade from the history of Dothan.
When I think about my father and his involvement in Dothan and in business, I think about the fact that he's such a forward thinker and that he has always had ideas way before their time. And one of his greatest accomplishments, I think, as mayor of Dothan was when he came up with the idea for Westgate Park and especially Waterworld. And I can remember as a child growing up and going down into Florida in the middle of the winter to go see a water park down in Florida, which was closed. And as a kid, I didn't understand why he would take us to a water park that was closed in the middle of the winter. But that's where he came up with the idea, and he actually, at his own expense, had a man come back up here and do a survey of the what was in the old airport, and came up with the idea for Westgate Park. And then he went to each of the commissioners, had a beautiful color drawing that he kept for years, and I wish he still had it. Beautiful color drawing that he had, and he showed it to each of the commissioners one by one and talked to them a great deal about it, and sold the idea to all of them, and then Westgate Park grew from that. But the most remarkable thing about that is if you could see that drawing, and I still have it in my mind, it looks almost exactly like what Westgate Park is now, with the tennis complex, with Waterworld, with the track, with the walking trails, with everything, the softball complex, the baseball complex, just the whole thing is something that he had thought about, and that it was his idea from the beginning. And of course he credits a lot of people with that, but no doubt that, growing up, I knew that, this was something he really wanted bad, and something he is extremely proud of.
Please congratulate Mr. James Grant.
They give that thing to you and then they take it away, I noticed, but that's usual. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the Young Professionals for putting this program on. I think this is really great. It's a tremendous honor for me and my family to be involved in this when I look at all these other 6 people that have been honored. And I just thank God that He's always been with me in all the things I've done. And some of the people that I want to thank so much, one of them is my wife, Rose. I just thank her and my son, Wes, and daughter, Rosemary and Gina. You know, they've always been very gracious to me. When I've done some stupid things, they didn't say, why'd you do those stupid things? And I appreciate that so very much because I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes. Other people that have done so much, and I seem to get the credit for it, is the city commissioners when I was mayor. All the people on all the committees, all the people on the authorities, all the people on the task force and the realtors. Those are the people that ought to be here tonight getting this on instead of me because they were the ones that worked, and I was just the chairman and I got the credit for it, and I appreciate that, but they certainly deserve it. This is a wonderful opportunity for me. I remember that back many years ago when Harry Hall told this story, he said that he was fixing to go to Atlanta and the fellow was hitchhiking. And he picked the fella up and says, where you going? He said, to Atlanta. What you going to Atlanta for? He said, to get a job. And he said, I've served 4 years in the Navy. I came back home to Dothan, and there's no jobs for me. There's nothing for me to do. There's no recreation, anything. In Atlanta, you can go to Atlanta, you can get a job, you can have a good time. That made a tremendous impression on me, and I wanted to be involved. I wanted to be involved in getting industry here. I wanted to be involved in recreation, and I was very fortunate that I got to do all that. Now, Helen Keller, she says something that I think is very important. They asked her one time, says, what if you had sight? And she said, I'd rather be blind without vision than have sight with no vision. And I believe that. Thank you again for this tremendous honor that you have given me. Thank you.
You could probably fill a book with all the things that need to be said about this next gentleman. In 1939, he became president and chairman of the board of First National Bank. During his tenure, the bank became one of the largest financial institutions in the Southeast. Wallace D. Malone, Sr.
Wallace Davis Malone Sr. graduated Dothan High School in 1912, received his Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Alabama in 1915, and then entered the Harvard Graduate School of Business Administration. He left prematurely to serve our country during World War II. After he was honorably discharged as a first lieutenant, Mr. Malone returned to Dothan. He first managed a fertilizer manufacturing company and later bought the company. When his father died in 1939, Malone became president and chairman of the board of First National Bank. During his tenure with the bank, it became one of the largest financial institutions in the Southeast. In 1954, President Eisenhower appointed Malone to the National Council of Consultants of the Small Business Administration. He also served in several political capacities across the state, on the Dothan City Council and in the Alabama House of Representatives. Malone was active in the community as a founder of the Alabama State Chamber of Commerce and The Haven, a rescue home for alcoholics in Dothan. When Malone resigned in 1954, he began to travel. His ventures took him across America, Africa, South America, and Vietnam. Wallace Davis Malone Sr., a true business pioneer.
As one of the grandsons of my grandfather, he always had us call him Poppy. It was always Poppy and Mommy is how we always referred to him. And some of my memories of Poppy happened to be when I always would go over there. We were always doing things together, whether it was fishing or riding around the property, feeding the animals that he had, whether it was in his big garden out back. But some of those particular memories that I did have is when I would go over there, we always would hop on the tractor, and this was over there when his house was over there on Enterprise Highway, and we would get on the tractor and ride down the side of the Enterprise Highway and go up to Mr. Ridley's store. Mr. Ridley's store was over there on the Airport Road, which is now Honeysuckle and West Main, right there where the Hop Inn is today. And we'd ride up there and we'd go play checkers with the men up there, and I'd always go over to the Coke cooler and pull myself out a Coke and get a moon pie, and I'd sit down and eat, and those men would be over there talking, and they'd be playing checkers with me with the Coke tops, turned right side up or upside down. And that was always a lot of fun to me. We had a good time. We fished together. We planted things together in his garden, which I'd always remembered as being a huge garden. I don't know that it was really all that big, but to me it was at that age. And I say I was, this would be about 6, 7 years old is what I'm talking about, some of my particular memories. But one thing I know that he always did, and this is after reflecting on it a number of years later after I was much older, he'd get up in the mornings and go out to his garden. He'd always check it out in the morning, and he'd be in his business suit. And he'd always walk through that garden and go do a few things, no matter what. And every time he left, it seemed invariably, he always had mud or dirt on him one way or the other. And my recollection was it always stayed on him a lot of times. He just seemed to always have it because he loved that garden. And we had a good time growing things in it. But I will say this, I very much am proud to have had him as my grandfather. And I've had a lot of great memories from that, almost as if it was as many years ago as that was, over 40 years ago. It feels like it was almost 6 months ago when a lot of this happened. I still see a lot of it. But anyway, I'm very proud to call him my grandfather.
And accepting the honor this evening for his grandfather is Davis Malone.
My name is Davis Malone. I'm the grandson of Wallace Malone Sr. This induction tonight, I want you to know, is a great honor to me and my family, my father, Wallace Malone Sr., and my mother, Osla, wife, Susan, and my sisters. It means a lot, and I want to thank the board greatly for this. It's something that when they asked me to do the video that you saw a little while ago, I thought back about my grandfather and what all we had done. And most of my memories, I'm going to tell you, are from a child's point of view. He passed away just before I turned 8, October the 11th, 1968. And so my memories, again, being from that age, I had remembered he always seemed to be dressed in a blue suit. Every time I always saw him, blue pinstripe suit. And that's basically what I put on tonight. I put that on just because I thought about that. Some of those things that I think that some of you folks may remember, at least some of you may, and those that don't, you may hear others talk about it maybe one way or the other. He always seemed to have a gruff voice. He just, every time he talked with you, it always seemed to be that way, but he was always just as, he always just seemed to be very loving to me and the family and all. And he, another thing that he always seemed to, I think you heard me earlier, happened to be is he loved his garden, so he planted out there and always seemed to, I don't know why it was, but always seemed to have mud on him whenever, you heard me mention a while ago, whenever he went into the bank. And those are some of the stories that I hear some of the folks talk about. But I also hear him talk about, and I also want to tell everybody thank you who's out here, all the family and friends and all the partners and all I know that he had over the years and the customers that always were part of him. And the bank and everything that always meant a lot to him. He appreciated very much all of the people that he dealt with, all the friends and so forth, and the customers. I want you to know that. Again, it's a great honor, and the memory that you have of him and remembering him for this means a lot to me and my family greatly, because we all very much love Dothan. It means a lot to us and the people here. I want you to know that. From my great-grandfather, my grandfather, to my dad and me, we've all lived here through all these years. And as you used to see on the cars that used to drive around, I don't see it anymore, but Dothan is a great place to live. And it means a lot to us. I want to thank the board again very much for this honor. It means a lot. I also want to congratulate the other inductees. I know and have known them and their families, and it is a great honor to be associated with this crowd. I want you to know, and particularly being one of the inaugural inductees, my grandfather. So anyway, I greatly appreciate that. I know my family does too, tremendously. I hope and thank you for all being here, and I hope that y'all all have a great evening. And I thank you very much.
Our next laureate devoted his adult life to the growth and betterment of Dothan. From 1954 to 1958, he served as Dothan's mayor and police commissioner. He also was a certified public accountant who owned and operated McClintock and Associates. Richmond C. McClintock, Sr.
Richmond C. McClintock was born in Dothan November 11, 1915, the son of Herbert R. and Susan Maud McClintock. The McClintock name, well known and well respected back then as it is today. Mr. McClintock attended Dothan High School, where he played football, and went on to the University of Alabama. His diversity unequaled. He was a champion boxer, an accomplished pianist, and a certified public accountant. Richmond McClintock was mayor and police commissioner in Dothan from 1954 until 1958. In fact, Mr. McClintock was the one who proposed moving the Dothan Airport to its present location. He obtained funding for what is now Girard Middle School and secured the purchase of Dothan's own electrical utility from Alabama Power Company. He was a faithful member of First Presbyterian Church, where he served as deacon, elder, and trustee. He served in numerous civic and other groups, including the Chamber of Commerce, the Association of the United States Army, the Kiwanis Club, where he was selected Kiwanian of the Year in 1986. He taught accounting at the University of Alabama Education Center and was involved in groups of public accountants. Richmond McClintock was good at just about everything. But when it came to loving his community and his family, Richmond C. McClintock was great.
One of the funniest stories that he used to tell all of us, not only as children, but grandchildren, and he told it so many times we got tired of him telling it, but a lot of people didn't know, he was a pretty good boxer, and he took pride in how he lifted weights and, got in shape and everything, and his his favorite story was when he was joining the Navy or the Marine Corps. He said that he had been taking these Charles Atlas courses and he'd gotten bulked up and big and strong and everything, and he said the doctors set him down, and he was in such a great physical specimen that he called all the nurses and the other doctors over and the hospital staff to just look at his physique. And he's told that story so many times that it just says, "Oh no, not again, Dad." You know, but he was the proudest of that moment, that they were saying that he was such a physical specimen. And he did go on and won some boxing championships in the Marine Corps. And so he was very good at that, but with all his political endeavors and the success he's had in the accounting firm and being a CPA, his greatest success story was how he got in shape and was just at awe by all the doctors and the staff when he took his physical and joined the Marine Corps.
Accepting the honor this evening for his father is George McClintock.
Jeff, Angie, members of the Chamber and friends, all y'all who know me know how much I loved and admired my dad. So I'm especially grateful to be able to be here tonight and accept this award for my dad. In fact, be glad I'm here to accept this award and not Dad. He loved public speaking and could keep you here a long, long time. So I'm not going to do that. Seriously, certainly being inducted into the Business Hall of Fame is a validation of his life's work and all he stood for in the business community. I cannot tell you how honored and thrilled he would be to be here tonight. Thank you so much on behalf of Dad and his family for this award. Thank you.
And our last laureate has roots that reach deep into Dothan's history. He is a founding member of the Dothan Home Builders Association, served as Dothan's mayor from 1989 to 1997, and is the founder and president of the Alfred Saliba Corporation. Alfred J. Saliba.
The one thing that best describes Alfred Saliba is his work ethic. Alfred Joseph Saliba was born in Dothan in February 1930. His family roots in the city already strong. His grandfather was a Lebanese entrepreneur. Alfred Saliba started working at the age of 13 and has never looked back. A graduate of the University of Alabama, Mr. Saliba was later a second lieutenant in the U.S. Air Force. He established a building and land development company, co-founded numerous industries, and has served on the board of directors of Regions Bank. And that is just a slim portion of his resume. Mr. Saliba has served on many charitable boards and in many civic organizations. The Alfred Saliba Services Center was his vision. Hundreds have obtained a GED, and thousands have found jobs through the center's efforts, not to mention the medical care offered. Oh, did we mention he was twice elected mayor of Dothan? Governor Fob James proclaimed a day in 1997 as Alfred Saliba Day. And somewhere along this busy road, he even found time to marry his wife Henrietta back in 1955. Alfred Joseph Saliba, an humble man who succeeds in business, but does even a better job at caring for others.
It is sometimes said that capitalism, while a wonderful economic system, is amoral. And by that, I mean that just because someone has been successful financially doesn't necessarily follow that that person has handled himself with integrity and with a high moral code. But isn't it fortuitous when you have someone who's availed himself or herself of our wonderful economic system, has done it the right way, imbued with integrity and high moral standards? Such is the case of Alfred Saliba. Alfred was born of parents with a very strong faith that was passed on to him and helped him develop his own very strong spiritual life. Additionally, his father taught him a very strong work ethic, and his mother taught him compassion. Filled with all of these traits, Alfred started out practically from scratch, and with the help of his wife Henrietta and his sons Fred and Mark and a very strong workforce, built a very, very successful construction business. Additionally, with the help of Bobby Hughes, Lee Thomas, and Danny Sharp, and many other realtors, built a very, very strong real estate business, and Coldwell Banker has been honored both statewide and nationally many times for all the accomplishments there. Alfred, with all of his financial success and business success, always remembered what his mother taught him about compassion. He treated everyone the way he would like to have been treated, whether it was customers buying a home, whether it was vendors, whether it was co-workers, anybody. His door was always open to carpenters, to bricklayers, to workers who needed help, who needed advice, who needed conversation. They knew they could always go and talk with him. Moreover, this generosity extended into the community with the Alfred Saliba Family Services Center, the Hawk Houston Boys Club, and many, many other organizations. I remember, too, when Alfred was first running for mayor, he and I had a conversation, not once, but 3 or 4 times, about his intention to run and why he was running. And this was not political rhetoric, because it was just the two of us. He said, I want to give back to Dothan what Dothan has given me. So tonight is very fitting that Alfred is one of the honorees because of the work that he's done, the success he's had in business, but more importantly, doing it with compassion and doing it the right way.
Please join me in congratulating Alfred Saliba.
I was having a lunch the other day with a friend of mine, Wallace, and he leaned over and said, have you written your speech yet? And I said, speech? I didn't know I was supposed to make a speech. Oh, yeah, 15 to 30 minutes, what Janet told me. He said, I talked to her at the chamber, and so when I got home, that was yesterday, I immediately called Janet. I said, now, Janet, you need to tell me something. 15 minutes or 30 minutes? She said, 2 minutes. So I didn't have a lot of preparation to do. But I wanted to, if you will forgive me, I wanted to open with a few personal remarks. There's a few things I want to say, and that's the only way I can say it. These past 4 months have been the toughest 4 months of my 81 years. And had I not had a wife that has stood by me for 56 years, and children and grandchildren, brother and sister, and all the rest of the family, probably would have been a different outcome. Henry and I have been married for 56 years. You would think that would be long enough to work out all your differences and problems and everything else, but it might take another 56 years. But she's been a real trooper. She's been by my side every day of the 4 months, almost every hour of the day. And I got to thinking about feeling sorry for myself during the early part of those 4 months. And then the more I thought about it, I had a lot of time. I wasn't going to the office. The more I thought about it, the more I started counting my blessings. And my blessings far outweighed diversity. I started thinking about how fortunate I am to have lived in a country that's the greatest country this world has ever produced. To live in a town like Dothan, Alabama, to live in a town like Dothan, Alabama, where we have so many exemplary actions of citizens of this city. I've been able to come back home where my family is, so that I have been surrounded by my family and surrounded by love and comfort and support. The business leadership in this area is superb. The business people, men and women, know one thing: you can't be too busy to help out in the community. And I think most of our businessmen and women are very actively in the service of the committee. We have a chamber that's progressive and forward-thinking, and a young executive group that's relatively new, but they are moving up fast, and we are blessed to have them helping our community grow. This award tonight is very meaningful to me. And if I talk over 2 minutes, you have to blame Wallace for that. I'm honored by the award, yet humbled because I know a lot of people in this community certainly deserve to be recognized. So I thank you, Chamber. I thank the young executives, people who are responsible for putting this all together. And the best part of living in Dothan, Alabama, is a number of people of faith that live here and live their faith. And it helps the city continue to grow and move up. If you have leadership in a committee, in a city, and they're not that concerned about people in the lower brackets, then it won't be a very good community. The businessmen and women have to take the slack up, and they do here. And what's behind that is their faith. So I want to tonight thank the Chamber, and young executives, and my family, and all of you out here who have come tonight. Thank you very much.
Once again, congratulations to all of tonight's recipients of the Dothan Business Hall of Fame. Let's give one more round of applause for all of them. We would also like to ask each of you who received the award tonight to stick around for a few minutes for a photograph. That concludes tonight's evening. We appreciate all of you being here and participating in what will become an annual event. We hope to see you next year, and we thank you once again for being here tonight. Good night.